Hey everybody, it's Roger with Kinsta. Today I'm joined by my good friend Amber and my new friend Paola. Hey, how are you?
Doing
Pretty
well.
good. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So today we're here to talk about the WordPress Accessibility Meetup and everything that's great about that. Before we jump into that though, Paola, I'd love to hear more about your story, how you came to find WordPress and accessibility and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am Paola and I am the content specialist at Equalize Digital. And I've been using WordPress for close to over 10 years actually. It was introduced to me in one of my marketing classes. Our professor told us we're creating a website today and we are doing it with WordPress. So that's what we did. And I've been using it ever since on and off in my different kind of jobs. And I was introduced to accessibility sort of recently, about 3-ish years ago when I started working at Equalize. And it was very interesting at the beginning learning how it merges so well with SEO because I work on the marketing side. So it's very interesting to see where it is kind of the same, where they help each other, both accessibility and SEO, and also let me think what else, and just the overarching of being able to make the web better for everyone. I feel like that is the main thing that drives me towards keeping accessibility at the forefront or everything that I do.
Excellent, awesome. And I think this tracks with Amber, our discussion we just had recently, where there was a school that you guys had done some work with, and you hadn't changed any of the content, you just improved the accessibility, added semantic markup, and they saw an increase in business or admissions and whatnot because it had just become easier for the bots to analyze it and track it, but then also at the same time made it easier for people to use the site. So it's always awesome to hear, the consistency of the more accessible you make something, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, it really is better for everybody.
Excellent. Well, so I think, the soup du jour is WordPress Accessibility Meetup. Tell me the details. I know that Kinst is involved with sponsoring and helping it out, and then that's why we're here right now is to help promote it. Give me the 30,000 foot overview, the 30-second sales pitch of what the heck this is.
Yeah, so WordPress Accessibility Meetup is a meetup that is part of the official WordPress Meetups program. It's very unique, though, in that it is one of only 2 non-city based meetups. So a couple of years ago, I put in an application and I said, I want to start a meetup, but I want it to be only on Zoom because there's not a lot of accessibility professionals in my area, and I want to have the ability to learn from accessibility professionals all around the world and host this event. And there's a big discussion. Is this allowed? And it was decided, yes, it was. The other virtual meetup, if you will, that's part of Meetups is Learn WordPress. There have been a couple of other ones, but none that have really stuck around. So we've been very consistently running meetups since 2021, I think summer of 2021.
Okay.
And Paula can correct me if that is wrong.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and we meet on the first Thursday. For me in U.S. Central Time, it's at 10 a.m. And on the third Monday at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time, which for folks in Australia is usually around 10 or 11 in the morning. So it's a good time during the workday for Australian folks. And so we chose those 2 times exactly for that reason, because we wanted it to be a global community. And we have speakers from all around the world. We have attendees from all around the world that talk about accessibility and WordPress and content and all kinds of stuff. Not every topic is necessarily WordPress focused, but they're all accessibility focused, and it's fun. And we do, yes, rely on sponsors to help us with covering the cost of live captions. So we have a trained captioner come to every meetup to caption meetups. So if an attendee is hard of hearing, they have access to accurate captions. So I don't know, Paula, do you want to tease some of the talks that we have coming up in the next few months?
Yes, so the upcoming talks that we actually have you talking, Amber. That is going to be an accessibility strategy and goal setting workshop, and that goes along very well with a talk that we had last week on budget for accessibility, which you can always find all the recordings of all of our talks on the website equalizedigital.com/meetup. We post every single recap, we post a video, I write a small summary of what was talked about, and we post all the links as well. But other talks that we do have coming up are, we have navigating the future using WordPress menu blocks that work for everyone, and that's going to be with Eli Frigoli and Michaela Letterman. And another talk that we have in January is how D&D can improve accessibility using role play during all phases of product development to better consider user experience. And that is with Nick Croft. That is on Monday 20th at 7 p.m. US Central. And I love how Nick Croft make his titles very nerdy. It's always something.
It is a great nerdy talk.
Yep.
I don't know if there's other WordPress folks who love D&D, but we do D&D at our house, and so we saw that title and we're like, oh yes, Nick, you definitely can come speak in. February 6th, we're going to have an attorney come talk about digital accessibility and law. We have talks next year about accessibility and branding, so there's just everything for everyone, whether you're a content specialist, a designer, a developer, a project manager. We try to really reach all of that.
Excellent, excellent. And if people are interested in becoming speakers, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
So they can email meetup@equalizedigital.com, and that email goes to myself and Paula. It's usually a little better than messaging us through the Meetup platform, but you can message us through the Meetup platform. But emailing is probably the best way, and then we can talk to you about best topics and all of that. One thing that is really important to note, so of course we follow all of the Meetup guidelines for speaker selection, but we also have gone through the process of getting the Meetup approved for continuing education credits with the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. They have two different certifications that require continuing education in order to maintain your certification as a web accessibility professional. And so we went through the process of doing that, which does mean that we have some extra guidelines on our speakers and the kind of talks that we can accept, just to make sure that they meet what's required for the continuing education credits. But it does mean that if you have one of those certifications, you can get continuing education credits for speaking. Okay. You can also get them for attending, and it does help with ensuring that no matter what talk you come to, you're generally going to get a really good experience.
That sounds great. And I think, anytime I start hearing certifications are involved, it tells me generally that the quality of everything is just going to be that much better. And so I think for people who are interested in speaking, what it says is, hey, you really need to know your stuff and bring your A game. But it also means that anybody who's attending, it's going to be high quality. They're going to learn something. As far as like the actual events go, what usually is like the length of the presentation, and then is there like a Q&A aspect to everything?
Yes, I can.
Do you want to speak to that? Yeah.
Yeah. So our meetups usually take 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. And the speakers usually talk for about the first hour, first 70 minutes. And then we just open the floor to Q&A, which makes it so much more interesting, because usually during the talk, you can see questions popping in and out, some good conversations in the chat. And at the end of the talk, then we get to have like a back and forth between the Q&A box and the speaker. And we get to continue that conversation that started with the presentation and the chat, and we get to put all that together at the end. And it's pretty neat. Sometimes the speakers do want to get more feedback after, or are still open to more questions that were left behind. So it's a great place for you to get your questions answered as well when it comes to the topic that the speaker is talking about.
That's wonderful. Having that extended Q&A time, that's usually where my frustration can come up at some of these events is you get 5 or 10 minutes of Q&A, so only like 3 questions get asked. So it sounds like this is much more extensive.
Well, and even the presentations, we talked a lot about this. Should the meetup be an hour and a half versus just being an hour? Because sometimes during a workday, an hour and a half feels like a big commitment. But the reality is when you're trying to give an educational presentation, it's really challenging to actually go in depth on a topic when you only have, because if then you're thinking, well, it's an hour, but there's a few minutes for announcements at the beginning. Then they present, and then you got to have Q&A at the end. So now you're talking a 45-minute talk. And so that is part of why we decided, okay, we are actually going to make it longer, because that gives the speaker sometimes like an hour and 15 minutes, and they can really go in depth on different things. And then, people can pop in and out. We always have more at the beginning than we have at the end, but because everything is recorded, if you need to catch the end later because you had to run to a meeting or something like that, you can always catch that in the replay.
It's amazing. I love it. Now, I am involved with my local meetup, and so we have meetup.com and everything that goes on there. So if people are trying to attend this, is this also we need to direct them to the meetup page, or where are they signing up for all of this?
So you can find us on meetup.com. It's, I think, meetup.com/WordPress-accessibility-meetup-group.
Okay,
Really
we'll
long URL.
Sure.
What I always tell people is if you just go to equalizedigital.com/meetup, then you don't have to search through all the WordPress accessibility meetups.
Yeah.
It is slightly easier on Meetup to know that the location for the group there is San Francisco.
Okay.
But everything takes place in Zoom. So even if you go to the Meetup group and you RSVP on the Meetup group, you actually do have to go register on Zoom. This is a security thing. It's not an open meeting because we don't want any shenanigans in Zoom. So you do have to go RSVP on Zoom in order to be able to attend.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so equalizedigital.com/meetup. That's where you need to go, and we'll figure it out from there. We'll make sure we have links for all of that. We've talked about, the presentations that are going to be happening. If people are interested in speaking, continuing education credits. What about if people want to help out? How can people help out, either by volunteering or by giving you money? What are you guys looking for help?
Yeah, so we are still looking for sponsors to help us cover cost. So in addition to the live captioning, we pay for transcription. We have a vendor who transcribes, and we pay like a per minute fee. So anyone who is interested in helping to sponsor the cost of that, we have had a couple attendees who are deaf, and they're actually culturally deaf, so they grew up speaking sign language, who have asked if we can have sign language interpretation. That is the one accessibility service that we can't provide for the meetup without a sponsor. We will always have captions. If we don't have a sponsor, then my company, just Equalize Digital, we just cover it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the cost of sign language is prohibitive for us. We have had, recently, Ninja Forms covered sign language interpretations for a couple of meetups, and so we were able to have that. But currently, we don't have any sponsors for that, so if anyone is interested there, that's helpful. It also really just helps to share the meetup and tell people about it. If there's a talk that looks interesting, promoting that is really helpful because, sorry.
No, that's fine.
I gave you an edit point. Promoting it and sharing it is very helpful because it gets, it really, it makes people know that accessibility is important and that there's ways to learn about it. So we always appreciate people sharing and promoting Meetup.
All right, sounds great. So we need to attend the meetup, everybody, but we also need to be sharing it wide and far. Get your TikToks going, get your gram on, whatever it takes. Blue sky's happening. So let's spread the word. Anything else that I'm leaving out before we sign off?
I can't think of anything. Can you, Paula?
I think we covered everything.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Paula. This was awesome. I'm super happy to help get the word out about the meetup. And I look forward to speaking with you both again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.